Hey, Spider Nation, welcome back to another episode of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. I'm Jonathan, webmaster of SpiderManFanRave.com, SpiderManFanRave.com. Go on over there. It's a pretty good website if I do say so myself. I mean, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but, I'm kind of proud of it. I like it. I put a lot of work into it. So, yeah, it's a fun Spider-Man website. I share my opinions on things. James contributes to it a little bit. So, if you want to check out a fun Spider-Man website, go on over to SpiderManFanRave.com. All one word, pretty basic URL, no hyphens or anything. I apologize to everyone who is cringing at the fact that I didn't spell Spider-Man with a hyphen, but you know what? It just doesn't work for a URL. So, yep, I'm Jonathan, webmaster of SpiderManFanRave.com. Once again, just a little plug in there. And today I'm being joined by James.
Oh, hi. You ever seen something? Sorry, I was reading the prequel to DC Rebirth Watchmen.
Yes, it's been a pretty intense week in terms of comic books, but unfortunately, like none of that was Spider-Man stuff.
Kind of if you count Spidey Deadpool.
Yeah, Spidey.
And a certain deal finally being mentioned, even though nobody at Marvel, besides the writer, knew about it.
Jesus Christ. Okay, we'll address it real quick right here at the beginning. Spider-Man Deadpool #5 has finally decided to address one more day. And
somebody and he took a Deadpool comic, Spider-Man Deadpool, but still a Deadpool comic, finally somebody to point out the elephant that's been in the room for, 8 years?
And apparently it's not going to go anywhere because apparently Tom Brevoort and Joe Quesada and all of them didn't even know about it. And so I guess Joe Kelly and Nick Lowe just scooted it in there, and so you've dropped this massive nuke worth of a bomb, and now it's just like nothing's gonna happen.
For people that don't know in context, Spider-Man Deadpool dealt with Peter Parker essentially once again dying, in quotation marks, and while his soul is in limbo fighting Mysterio, he bumps into Mephisto, and Mephisto starts bragging about, I know something you don't know, I got a secret. And then he starts saying that, and he basically reveals his secret, but he does it in a very vague way without saying you made a deal for your marriage. He basically says that all the emptiness you feel, all the reasons why you can't hold on to love and your emptiness, and that basically the same stuff he said in One More Day, how there's that one part of your soul that's crying on agony because you're always going to be alone. That was me. And then Peter wakes up from it, and then he sees a note from Deadpool saying, hey, we're all back alive. Everything's all over and done with. Bye. And so the internet had a shitstorm because, oh my God, they finally addressed One More Day, and Mephisto let Peter in on a secret. And then supposedly Tom Brevoort and other people at Marvel had no idea what happened until the internet started talking about it. I guess I don't know how that's possible, but somehow I guess that's happened.
You're the editors of this thing. How do you? Oh.
And the masterminds of that thing.
It's just we're not going to start bashing Marvel employees because it's a story. We don't have all the information on it, but
like you said, John, this is not like somebody referencing the Kid Who Collected Spider-Man or referencing a random issue of Spectacular Spider-Man or Marvel Team Up. This is referencing this piece of crap.
It's referencing.
There's no way nobody knew about this.
This is the most infamous and most hated Spider-Man story to ever be published. You cannot address that and not follow up on it. And you can't.
Like I said, Joe Kelly finally poked the biggest elephant in the room.
And it's just it's a mess. And so I'd like to see it addressed somewhere, but who knows if it's going to be. But James, other than that, how's your week been?
Pretty good. I mean, I had work, tiring, work shit going on. So that kind of stuff. But that's pretty much about this. Like, the only other eventful thing this week was going to the comic shop and having 3 big comic book bombs being dropped on me. Mephisto showing up in a Spider-Man book talking about One More Day. Captain America being revealed to be Hail Hydra this whole time. And then this little ditty, this little 80-page, $3 ditty that's arguably, in my opinion, the best. One 80-page comic has been the best DC book I have ever read. New. Not like going back issues. New.
In terms of my week this week, it's not been very eventful, but oh god, just we'll talk at the end of the show about what I'm sure everyone knows I'm going to talk about.
Like I told John, I cannot wait for my version. That's gonna be his version of my Since Past rant. He says it's not gonna be that bad, but just talking to John already about it. There's a volcano. There's a giant, like, earth-destroying volcano that's about to erupt. I have a feeling, and it's inside John's mind right now.
I really don't want to talk about this. I really don't. But before we get to that, because this is a Spider-Man show, it's not a Cap show, it's not a DC. We are going to talk some Spider-Man stuff this week. We don't have an issue of Amazing Spider-Man yet again this week. We do have one next week, so be sure to check back in next week for that. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, number 13 will be coming out. Power Play Part 2. So that will be an interesting thing to read, so we will keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, we're going to go back a couple years to 2012 when a little mini-series called Spider-Men was published. Now, to give context to this miniseries, this was an idea that came from the mind of Brian Michael Bendis, who, for those of you who don't know him, he is the architect behind basically the entire Ultimate Universe, and he was the long-tenured writer of Ultimate Spider-Man from pretty much its conception to its death. He is the current writer of the Miles Morales Spider-Man title, as well as current Invincible Iron Man title. Actually, both Iron Man titles, actually, and a couple other books, I think. And so Spider-Man, the premise is that the 616 Peter Parker accidentally falls into the Ultimate Universe and meets up with Miles Morales. And in the aftermath of that, he learns about this alternate universe that's very much like his own, but is different in a lot of significant ways. And so
it's different in a lot of ultimate ways.
Yeah, it's I guess ultimately it's pretty different.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but yeah, so it's not a really significant story in terms of the continuity. It is in continuity and it's referenced again, and I think
it's been retconned.
Oh, has it been officially retconned now?
Dan Slott and Bendis have both confirmed that, yeah, it's been retconned. That Secret Wars would erase memories from both Peter and Miles about what happened, because Miles' history happened in the 616.
Okay, well,
so there's been no time travel shenanigans between the two of them.
Well, at the time,
I guess now Miles is just the other 616 Spider-Man who was in Spider-Verse, I guess now.
Well, at the time continuity. But yeah, so it's a pretty isolated miniseries. There's not a whole lot of crossover. There never was a whole lot of crossover in the main ASM title or in the Ultimate Comics Spider-Man title at the time. It's a pretty self-contained story. Its main contributors, obviously, were Brian Michael Bendis as the writer and Sarah Pichelli on pencils. And Sarah Pichelli had been working on the Miles book and so she had a lot of experience with the character. And I don't know if this was her first time drawing Peter Parker. I'd have to check up on that.
This is basically me and John's first Ultimate review, and it's not because it's a crossover team up. It's because it's sometimes I didn't mean to do that, but it's ultimately a next arc of Ultimate Spider-Man. It just happened 616, current at the time, 616 Peter Parker will actually cross over and wasn't some zombie or alternative universe like they have done before with Ultimate. This was a legit real guy coming over.
And so that is what makes it a bit unique. And also, something that a lot of readers pointed out was that at a previous point, several years prior to that, I think Brian Michael Bendis had said that the Marvel Universe has officially run out of ideas when they're crossing over with the Ultimate Universe. A lot of people found it funny that Peter Parker ended up crossing over into the Miles Morales universe.
Now he kind of changes that, I think. And now when he's interviewed, when he was now interviewed about it, he now says, "Oh, you run out of ideas when Ultimate Peter Parker crosses over with 616." Because it's basically a cop out now, because with Spider-Verse and everything, Ultimate Peter was still dead at the time. So that's more like, and now the universe is gone, so it was a cop out pretty much. Well, Universal Ultimate Peter and 616 Peter in the same room together, so what I said still stands.
And of course, another reason that this story is retconned is because of the fact that we will spoil it right now at the end of it, because the last page of this story has 616 Peter, after he's returned home, Googling the Miles Morales of his universe and saying, "No way!" or something like that. So obviously it's supposed to be a shock who Miles Morales is. But now that they've crossed, and now that they're in the same universe, and now that Peter and Miles are coexisting together, it's pretty clear that that's not going to happen now. Whatever that plot thread was, it's going to be left dangling in the air forever.
Well, supposedly Bendis was playing the sequel like a year later, but Superior happened.
Yeah, there was a lot.
He said, I didn't want it to be Peter Parker in Doc Ock's brain and Miles crossing over. I wanted it to be 616 Peter with his own brain and Miles. And then he said, I'll save it for whatever slot ends, Superior Spider-Man. And then not only the slot comes back, but he goes, no, I'm doing the crossover, plus every other goddamn Spider-Man in history with Spider-Verse. And then Ben says, I'll save it for after Spider-Verse. And then Secret Wars happens and the universe gets rebooted.
And so Bendis was like, well, this story,
and Bendis probably forgot, because Bendis doesn't care about his own continuity. Bendis literally, the retcon of it no longer happening is all just Bendis forgot that they met before.
And, like you said, Bendis is not known for even caring about his own continuity. If you doubt that, read Invincible Iron Man right now.
If you doubt that even more, go back and read his New Avengers run, where even during crossover events, he had he'll be the writer of like Secret Invasion or Siege or some kind of Marvel event, and he's having retcons and continuity errors with his own Avengers book, with his own written crossover events like Secret War and Secret Invasion and Siege. He's having these moments where like there's contradictions all over the place. Like Cap revelation of him wanting to do the right thing after Norman invaded Asgard. There's 3 different reasons that Bendis gives for Cap being there. You got Captain America, you got the New Avengers annual, which ends with him showing up like, Avengers, we have a mission to do, and it says to be continued Siege, meaning he already knew about it. You got in the Siege book where he's turning off the TV and had enough. And then you had in the actual Siege crossover with New Avengers that wasn't the annual, another version of that scene, but now he's in a war room with other Avengers watching, and now the TV saying enough is enough. So they gave 3 different reasonings of how Cap got everybody together to fight.
As we move into the actual review here, we will we'll break the series up into 3 different parts. We'll tackle the first 2 issues, the second 2 issues, and then the last issue individually. And so James is going to be taking the first 2 issues for recap. So James, why don't you go ahead, take us through the first 2 issues of Spider-Men.
The first issue begins with a recap about Bulkhead's origins. Basically, Peter Parker, you already know it. Hit by a spider, Uncle Ben got shot, power and responsibility. Miles is more of, just repeat what I said there for Peter, but Peter's also dead, and now Miles has all that power and responsibility. And then we begin the actual book with 616 Peter wandering around his town, doing Spider-Man shit. He's stopping armed robberies. He's stopping carjackers. He's being Spider-Man. He's quipping. The cops don't like him. Blah, 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 blah. He's doing all that stuff. And then he just happens to see Mysterio. Him and Mysterio get into a fight, and they're, doing their own mysterious Spider-Man stick. And then Peter gets sucked up into the Ultimate Universe, and then Mysterio goes, "Fuck, he's not supposed to be there." That Ultimate Mysterio was 616 Mysterio this whole time, just sending a robot over.
I like how you put that, like, you put a cat got onto the couch again, like, God damn it, he wasn't supposed to go there.
He was, though. He freaks out about it, like, oh my god, he's not supposed to be there.
Shit,
I just send my ultimate robot to destroy him in the Ultimate Universe.
Shit, I told him not to go down a dark alley at 3 a.m. I gotta get him out of there.
So then Peter, wakes up on the skyscraper, and then he realizes that this is not the New York. He basically turns to Toto and says, "Toto, I got a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore, only it's totally Kansas, or in this case, New York's another dimension version of it." And you see some ultimate, landscapes, like their version of, the Baxter Building, their version of the Bugle, their version of the helicarrier, which is called, what was it, the Triskelion? I can never pronounce it.
I can't pronounce it, the Triskelion or whatever.
Yeah, the Triskelion, the Triskelion, whatever, the SHIELD headquarters in the Ultimate Universe. You see that, you see, their version of the Bugle, their version of, the Baxter Building. And then Peter goes to some naked lady in her shower who lives there. So, of course, she freaks the fuck out because here's dead Peter Parker breaking into her house. You would freak out too if you were in that universe.
Yeah, it's like, I think that's a pretty understandable response, especially because wasn't that woman, like, just in a towel or something?
Yeah, she's literally just out of the shower.
It's like, I'd probably actually go a little bit further and maybe beat the shit out of him.
And then Peter sees some muggers mugging some guy, and he does what Spider-Man does. He stops the muggers. And in classic Parker luck, the guy is ungrateful. But the twist, he's ungrateful because the Parker luck is because the mugger says he's mad. I mean, the guy who was being mugged is mad because, as he said, how dare you disgrace Peter Parker?
And Peter Parker's like, what the hell did you just say?
Yeah, he's freaking out because everybody knows how paranoid Peter is. Hey, I appreciate you saw these muggers, but you're an asshole for wearing Peter Parker's costume. And he's like, what? So yeah, that happens, and then Peter's all like, dude, this is too weird. And then he bumps into Miles, to be continued.
And as we move into Spider-Man number 2, what happens in there, James?
Well, Peter and Miles are talking, and it's kind of similar to the 90s video game where it's like, dude, the imposter, dude, the imposter. It's more of just Miles fanboying out to Peter Parker. Oh, wow, you're really him, you're Peter Parker, aren't you? And then Peter's like, beating the crap out of this 13-year-old kid.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's breaking some sort of ethical law or moral.
Peter doesn't know how he calls him kid and stuff like that, but he doesn't know he's 13.
Well, even still, if you're calling him kid, that probably is a tip-off that you shouldn't punch him.
Yeah, it's basically Miles' fanboying to Peter kicking his ass. It's hilarious.
Could we make it?
He's fighting this kid, and they both fall off the building, and Miles gets the mask, and then they pretty much have like the hero moment. As Miles saves Peter. Peter uses the web shooters, and then all is awesome and forgiven. And then Peter is knocked out. He passes out because all this shit's going on. I would too. I don't blame him. And then Ultimate Miles calls Ultimate Nick Fury, and then Peter wakes up at the church gate. He's in the end. And he wakes up there, and then Ultimate Nick Fury's like, I'm Sam Jackson, bitch. Who are you? And he's like, I'm Tobey Maguire. And he's like, awesome.
God.
Or wait, was Andrew Garfield's movie out time?
I think it just came out when this movie came out.
Okay, so retcon what I just said and replace it with Andrew Garfield.
I'm Sam Jackson. I'm Andrew Garfield. Fuck, I wanted Tom Holland. You ordered the wrong one.
And then basically he's all like, are you really Peter Parker? And then Peter, like, paranoid as all hell, even though Nick Fury knew it was in on the secret even after one more day. So he shouldn't be that paranoid that a different universe Nick Fury knows in it. But he's all like, I'm not saying I am, but hypothetically, if I am Spider-Man, he's just going on this long essay, long thing where he's beating around the bush and saying, yes, I am Peter Parker from another dimension, because he's dead paranoid. There's another dimension where his identity is already out on the bush, not outright saying I'm Peter Parker. Even though I could get him out of jail in this universe and he can go home probably. That's fucked up. Basically, Ultimate Nick Fury's like, yeah, I had enough of this. You're able to go. And then, they're all, hanging out, him and Miles. He's talking to Miles, hey, so this is Ultimate Nick Fury. And then they're in a helicopter with Ultimate Nick Fury. And then Peter brings up one of the most greatest lines, I think, in this whole event, where Ultimate Nick Fury asks, so what's the Nick Fury of your dimension like? And he goes, he's a white guy, which shows you when this comic came out, because it's right before they made the change to in the 616. He goes, oh, he's white. And then Ultimate Nick Fury goes, the best line ever. Oh, I feel bad for him. It's something like, I feel bad for him, or I feel bad for you, or I'm sorry to hear that. And it's just so hilarious how he's like, yeah, I look like Sam Jackson. Who does your universe guy look like? Oh, a white guy. I'm sorry to hear that. It's like the most, like the Ultimate Nick Fury would say that, because he did say stuff like that in like the original Ultimate Dreams, all like dream casting the Ultimates as who would play them in movies, and they're all saying, well, then who would you cast yourself? Sam Jackson, of course. And the issue ends with their helicopter being blown up by Ultimate Robot Mysterio.
Because robot uprising.
It took forever for them to finally get Ultimate Mysterio. Like, if I recall, it was like he only came in like right after Ultimatum, wasn't it? Like, it was like the first arc of Spider-Man after Ultimatum is where they debuted it. So there was, for the longest time, there was no Ultimate Mysterio. So by saying that there never was an Ultimate Quentin Beck, it was just always 616 Quentin Beck going. That world is actually pretty cool, I think.
All right.
He's a master of illusion, so Quentin Beck of the Ultimate Universe is the ultimate illusion. I kind of like that from this reveal. That's the way I saw it. Is that Ultimate Mysterio is the ultimate illusion.
All right, James. What do you think of the first 2 issues of Spider-Man here?
It's really good. I really enjoy it. I like I said, like, this is basically like my fan theory, dream writing of Spider-Verse was always 616 Peter teaming up with Ultimate Peter, not Miles, because this was back when Ultimate Peter was still alive. And it was always like Ultimate Peter and 616 Peter meeting up. And then I would say that, during the course of this other dimensional Spider-Man got pulled into the final battle, and this is where you get like Tobey Maguire one, and this is where you get the 90s show, and you get this universe of Spider-Girl, where they're just like all calling in all the Spider-Mans for like the final fight with Ultimate Green Goblin and 616 Storm teaming up. And that's what's the way I wrote it. And there's a lot of elements here that, like, my fan idea, and I can't say they ripped me off, because literally everybody has this idea. What if, the 616 bumped into the Ultimate Universe? And it's very much what people want it to be. There are characters talking about the differences and similarities to their worlds. And Peter, it's just so great that the Parker luck, how they even use that here, where when he's Spider-Maning it up, doing Spider-Man stuff in the Ultimate Universe, everybody hates him because they love Peter Parker. It's Parker luck irony to the 10th degree. They hate him because they love Peter Parker.
But he is Peter Parker.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like there's so much irony in that you think Stan Lee wrote this.
No, there's not enough instances of Spider-Man saying groovy or dad.
Yeah. But you know what I mean, though? Like Stan was saying first, what? Flash Thompson hates Spider-Man? Hates Peter Parker, but he's the president of the Spider-Man fan club? What? Jonah thinks that Parker has a second son, but hates Spider-Man? Liz has a crush on Spider-Man, and she thinks Peter Parker is a total nerd?
All right, James. So, any other thoughts on these issues, and do you give it a thumbs up, a thumbs sideways, or a thumbs down?
I give 2 thumbs up, 1 thumbs up for each issue. It's pretty good. It's nice told. I have never been that big of a Miles fan. I'm still not that big of a Miles fan. It's just the way I am. I just never like got into the character that much. But I like how he reacts here, how he's fanboying at Peter. Because at this moment, this is as close as he's ever going to get to his universe, Peter, who he idolizes. So he's fanboying it out, and it's awesome to see that. Because that's how you would react to if your childhood hero was right next to you.
Yes.
And he's everything and more you always thought he would be.
My childhood hero is right here, and he's plastic.
John just completely made us more sad. Like, he doesn't make a real world reference to like some sports athlete or a magician or a war hero or something like that. He picks a plastic toy on his desk of the guy who I'm already goddamn talking about in a comic book.
See,
Peter Parker in his world is real. You idolize a plastic toy.
I had about 12 inappropriate jokes that I could have made after that line, but I'm not going to because I'm not going to.
Because it makes you look worse if you idolize those kind of toys.
No, I was actually just going to say because I feel like that's an avenue that no one should ever go down. And no, I do not advocate for the kind of thing that I know James is referencing. Okay.
You're the one who brought it up. I wasn't even going to think about that until you pointed me in that direction.
All right, but my thoughts on these two issues. I thoroughly enjoyed them as well. I agree with James on a lot of things. I think the characterization of Peter and Miles are both very solid. I love the opening scene with Spider-Man before he gets to the Ultimate Universe when he's just in the 616 continuity. And to stop a car chase, and what he ends up doing is he pulls the driver out of the car and gets in the driver's seat and he's like, "What's up, dude? Oh, so this is a car chase, huh? Oh yeah, you guys kind of suck at these things, because I literally just pulled your driver out the driver's side window. You guys really need to get better protection for this." I really liked that. I thought that was a great moment. I thought that was really good. Mysterio's moment of wasn't supposed to go there was not originally as funny as it was until James brought it up, which I thought was quite entertaining. Like James said, I like the Parker Luck stuff with Peter being in the Ultimate Universe and people hating him for being himself, pretty much. And so that's nice. That's a nice little take on that. Something I do also want to bring up is Sarah Pacelli's artwork is really, really nice. It's really visually attractive. I think it fits the tone of the story pretty well. I mean, it's cartoony, but it's not so off the wall that it's distracting, but it's cartoon that's grounded in realism, so that's kind of cool. The meeting and ultimately the fight between Peter and Miles is actually, I think it's pretty decent. I don't support grown men beating up children, but I kind of understand why Peter was so trigger happy with his web shooters, I guess, because this guy is man knows his secret identity. Peter's kind of freaking out a little bit because at this point he hasn't figured out that he's in an alternate universe, and so he's kind of his adrenaline's high and he's running on survival mode. So I can kind of see where that comes from. And so all of that stuff is fairly good. So I give these issues a thumbs up as well. I think they're perfectly solid, and I think they're a great start to this story. You know what else is great? Pure Aqua Spring Water. If they ever want to sponsor this podcast, I'd be open to it because I drink it on every single freaking show.
And if you want something a little more hard, here's a root beer from Mugs. A lot harder than root beer. Here's an empty bottle of Miller Lite.
Okay. Now that we've completely turned ourselves into corporate puppets.
Corporate puppets, where I completely evaluated everything from water to soda to beer.
I think we've covered all ends of the liquid spectrum. I think the only further we could go is gasoline, and I don't think anyone really wants to go down that route. But moving on, I will be handling the recap of the next two issues, Spider-Man number 3 and number 4. So we'll just dive right in. We got the same creative. We don't need to go through that again. But this issue picks up where the last issue left off. Peter and Miles with the robot Mysterio on a dock by a few warehouses with, some knocked out guards from their helicopter and, the helicopter, in pieces. Peter, what's going on? Dude, I don't know. You live here. I'm just visiting. And so we have the robot Mysterio, giving exposition. How can there be two Spider-Men at once? Just how can this be? And Miles is just like, oh, well, you know what I'm just going to do with this guy? I'm just going to punch him in the face. Turns out that that's a terrible idea because Miles just gets propelled back at Peter Parker. And so the two of them, they attempt to take on the robot Mysterio, but it turns out that Mysterio has a trick up his sleeve, and he is releasing chemicals into the air that cause anyone who breathes them or takes them in to see and experience their worst. Spider-Man's worst fear is just his entire Rose Gallery. Let's see, we got Venom, Carnage, Lizard, Electro, some other guys I don't recognize.
Goblin.
Yeah, we got Goblin, we got Doc Ock. I'm going to assume that's Hammerhead. We got plenty of people in here for Spider-Man to be afraid of, and they're trying.
And we got like 3 or 4 Ultimate villains too.
Yeah, they're trying to fight their way to up to Mysterio, but the other guys, they just keep getting in the way. But Peter, he finally works out that this is just, it's all an illusion. This is Mysterio I'm dealing with. I've dealt with this guy plenty of times. It took me a second because he's using something new and super advanced, but it's an illusion with a fierce chemical component. He's pulling our fears out of our head and hitting us with them because he's a jerk that way. And so eventually they managed to break the illusion, but it turns out that by doing so, they caused robot blow up. Don't you just hate it when robots blow up like that? And so Miles wakes up from his from basically being unconscious, and he sees Thor, or Ultimate Thor, Ultimate Tony Stark, and Ultimate Hawkeye standing over him. And so he and Peter are questioned. Well, actually, no, it's just Miles who's questioned about exactly what happened there. He explains blah blah blah. Tony starts trying to analyze Mysterio's tech, or every piece that he can get his hands on. And it turns out that Peter Parker woke up before Miles did and sort of fled the area because he's starting to have a bit of a panic attack about being in a different universe that's so similar to his yet so different at the same time, which is kind of reasonable, because he's thinking to himself, if that was all an illusion, then this has to be an illusion. This can't really be, but it's all so real. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? Okay, I just need to step back. What's the best way I know to test New York City? I know, I'll go to a convenience store, because I guess those are the true litmus tests of NYC in the 616 universe. And so just as Spider-Man goes into a convenience store, said store is held up by a robber. Basically deals with by webbing his face into a glass counter, which proceeds to break the glass counter and knock the guy out unconscious. Spider-Man, I really hope you're going to be able to pay for that, because, taxpayers can't fix everything. But so Spider-Man, he finally sees the Daily Bugle article on the death of Peter Parker in this Ultimate Universe, and so he rightfully so, starts freaking out a little bit. Who ends?
He saw his own obituary. I think anybody would freak out from that.
Yeah, it's an understandable response, but the issue ends at the home of Ultimate Peter Parker. Gwen, you still have to do your homework. May, it's not like I didn't do it. I just didn't do all of it. I just need to pace. How dare you? Get out of here, you lunatic! I'm calling the police, you horses! And then he lifts up, and it's Peter Parker, and May Parker and Gwen Stacy just stand there dumbstruck, because Peter Parker is literally standing at the edge of their driveway, and he's supposed to be dead.
Oh, they don't even know it's Peter, though, when we get into issue 4, though. They just think it's some guy who looks similar to him wearing the costume. Sorry, spoiled it.
It's once again, these reactions, they're pretty understandable. It's just, my God, my voice in this podcast, I don't know why.
And can I just say that John's teenage girl voice is like the most awkward and hilarious thing. It sounds like some 90s, Saved by the Bell, like surfer girl, Valley, like all about going to the little mall. Like I was waiting for an as if to be in there.
So, issue 4 of Spider-Man begins on. Man, you're Gwen Stacy. You're so young. Okay, Peter, just chill out, okay?
All the creepy meters of him when his old girlfriend's being a teenager in this universe is not in here, John.
It's just this is the part where it honestly does get a little extremely creepy. And so Aunt May
moment yet.
Aunt May walks up and slaps the guy, as you do, because. And it turns out Gwen agrees with me because she beats the shit out of him.
She kicks him in the balls, doesn't she, when he's down?
Yeah, he literally kicks the guy when he's down. Do you have a soul? Do you have a reason to live? And the only reason Gwen doesn't snap his neck right then and there is because Miles shows up and tries to explain it to them. And so eventually, they pull Gwen off of him. They start talking, and it turns out Aunt May doesn't take well to this news, and it turns out she faints just about as much as she does in the regular 616 universe.
I think that Ultimate May has never fainted. I don't think I'm because they always went all the way to she's still the doting aunt, but it was never to the point of Aunt May in the comics. And I think it was Bendis when 616 Peter shows up, she just becomes 616 Aunt May. It's like because he's the Prime Universe, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big reader of Ultimate, so I don't know. But Aunt May drops, as you do, because once again, it's understandable.
Adult dead nephew is walking around your front lawn,
and so Tony and Nick Fury are back at the Triskelion, and they're trying to decipher the Mysterio tech, and they're talking about this new Spider-Man, and they're talking about Miles chatter around the water cooler. And so just at that point, we turn to a bedroom, on the other side of the neighborhood. Hello? MJ? Who is this? It's Gwen. Oh, hey, what's going on, girl? Once James brought that up, I got it. I'm driving this up to level 10. Well,
it's never be a drag queen. That's not a joke at drag queens. That's a joke at John.
Well, it's one of those things. What things? What are you talking about, Gwendolyn? Well, it's one of those things that it's mean if I tell you, and it's mean if I don't. And if I thought for a second that you might never find out about this, I would totally never tell you. But I kind of feel you will find out about this. And so, you would want me to. So, for the sake of our friendship, Hey, what are you talking about? I'm so sorry.
You're making her sound like she's a Valley girl, and Ultimate Gwen is a goth, and Ultimate Mary Jane is a book nerd.
I'm sorry.
And you're making him sound like Kimberly from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
I'm so sorry to every single female viewer that we have right now. I'm so sorry.
Every teenage girl who watches this, apologies to you. One thing, what are you doing watching?
I was gonna say
Spider-Man.
I was gonna say to be honest with you, I feel like that idea, James, that you just brought up, I feel like that doesn't happen. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Hey, we're an equal opportunity podcast. We don't care about your age, gender, sexuality, race, whatever. Anybody can watch our show.
If you want to watch,
especially since the bigot Zombie Thomas is no longer on the show.
If you want to watch us, that's fine. We're not going to stop you. It's a free country, and we do try to be up. There are some demographics that just don't watch us because we probably don't appeal to them. I should probably just shut my mouth right now.
John, did you realize that you need that 100 times more creepier by saying we don't appeal to teenage girls? Thank you for making it even more creepier than it already is.
Oh my God, James, I'm just saying they probably.
I'm just giving you a hard time now. Continue the story. I'm bullshitting you.
Okay, shut in the mouth. but opening it again so I can do the recap. So Aunt May wakes up and she walks upstairs and she's just like, what the hell is all of this? Because, as you do. And so Gwen and Miles, they explain everything to Aunt May. They try to explain it all. And so Peter starts asking questions, So Gwen, what's up with you in this universe? I can't date you, so stop please staring at me like that. All right. Well, what becomes of MJ in your universe? Are you dating her? Yeah. What's she doing? Oh, she's a model. She's a model? Yeah, like a supermodel. She's a supermodel?
I just love that. I'll bring it up more in my review, but I love Gwen's reaction to what MJ is in Peter's universe.
Model? What do I end up being then? I don't know if we should talk about that. Oh my god, I end up being a stripper, don't I? Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with that.
Let's totally not go with that you banged Norman Osborn, had his goblin kidney for you off a bridge and killed you, and then there was clones of you. Like, let's not mention any of that.
Yeah, we're just, I'll tell you when you're older, Gwen. I'll tell you when you're older.
And by when you're older, I mean never, because your universe got retconned out of existence.
Don't you just hate when that happens? But, so yeah, Peter's just, he's explaining it all. He has a tender, sweet moment with Aunt May. But at that moment, car drives up. It's Nick Fury, and it's time for Peter to go home. He hugs teenage Gwen because he's creepy like that. And he's walking out. Who does he see in the distance? Mary Jane. What does he do?
This is when the creepy factor hits overload.
What does he do? He runs after the teenage girl in broad daylight. Because
I get that it's Bendis' message that he always saw Mary Jane as Peter's one true love, and it's that even different universes, he's destined to be with her. But this is 16-year-old Mary Jane, or 17. No, she was 18 at the time, I think. Because like a month later is when ultimately Peter comes back and they said he was 18 and they were the same age. Like, yeah, she's 18, so it's okay.
But still, it's creepy.
It's creepy because she's barely 18, if that.
It's like, guys, just Peter, just calm down. All right, she's a teenager. You don't need to just stop. All right, people go to jail for doing less than that. All right.
But I banged her adult version of her continuity, so we should totally be awesome. Peter, you're making it 100 times worse.
Yeah, you're not doing yourself any favors. So Peter goes back to the Triskelion. He meets Ultimate Tony. Hey, there's a version of you in my universe that stopped drinking a while back. And Nick Fury has a great line. He says to Peter, "Man, I like your universe more already," which I thought was really funny. And so,
it's not the only time that a 616 person calls out Ultimate Tony for his drinking problems. Something that Ultimate Universe never does because he's the happy drunk.
Yeah, but so they find out where Mysterio's little portal is they'll ultimately get Peter home. They'll get him back to the 616 universe, and they take off for that place. To be concluded. Dun dun dun. I'll give my thoughts on these two issues. Issue 3, I think, issue 3 is perfectly solid, but issue 4 is the one that's like really interesting because this is where you see Peter interact with the ultimate supporting cast, and the clear creepiness factor aside of Peter, Gwen, and Mary Jane, there are some really sweet, tender moments in there, and it's like, and a lot of the reactions to seeing Peter are so human, and like Bendis just gets it on such an emotional and personal level. So I honestly think that
these are questions that would be asked, and it's not for fan service of continuity, bringing up continuity. These are stuff that you would legitimately ask each other if you were in the situation.
Yeah, so it's like, it's good that, it Bendis really handles the whole environment really well, I think. So that's a big positive for me. Other positives, the fight with all of the Rogues Gallery in issue 3. That's visually entertaining. Sarah Pichelli once again does a really good job with the artwork, and she does I really like the way she draws Venom. I don't know what it is, just like such big, bulky symbiote going everywhere, trying to bond with Peter. It's really it's a nice panel. Oh, some really good stuff.
It's a more realistic version of the JR version, which was big and bulky and had some spikes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a really good drawing. Other than that, there's not a whole lot else to talk about. It's just most of it. I think we covered most of the important points in the recap, and besides that, just some really good emotional moments. So, yeah, I give both once again. I think that this is a particularly solid arc so far. So, James, what do you think of issues 3 and 4 of Spider-Man here?
I think they're really good. Issue 3, like you said, the Vision fight, I kind of like it too. There's Ultimate villains and there's 616 villains. And other than Electro, how both 616 and Ultimate are there, I was hoping for more of them, just so we can have a reference, like maybe Peter sees 616, Peter's fighting illusion of Ultimate Norman, and Miles is fighting an illusion of 616 Norman, and they both at the same time say the same thing, like, who the hell is this guy? Because of how different 616, green guy in a green suit with purple boots, riding a glider and a purse, and gigantic Hulk with horns. I mean, the polar opposites of Ultimate and 616 Green Goblin. I was hoping there'd be a moment like that in there, where they both were like, well, who the hell are you? Saying to each other's goblin. Well, we don't really get that. It's more just, Peter like, oh, it's an illusion because I deal with Mysterio 100 times. It's an Ultimate version, it's still him. And it ended up being, it was still him because Robot blew up. Conveniently, the robot never blew up before when Ultimate Spider-Man ever fought on both Peter and Miles, but now it does. Conveniently, so that way the truth can come out. Peter's reaction at the store is like I said, if John woke up tomorrow and went inside a convenience store and saw in the obituaries of the newspaper his own obituary, he would freak the fuck out. We would all flip our wigs.
Well, yeah, especially if it's like a front page headline. It's just like, excuse me, I'm still here. Like,
and I love that the picture they used is the cover of Ultimate #1.
That's got, having something like that, one of us woke up and saw our obituary. It's just like, have we become that invisible to people that they don't even notice that we're still alive anymore? That's gotta be a sad place to be in.
And then that leads into in these 2 issues, what I consider the best part about it, which is Peter going to Ultimate Gwen and Aunt May's house, and just the talk that they all had together, where they compare and contrast the similarities, like Peter's greatest enemy being Norman Osborn, how that's something that will never change. When they name off all the people before he died who knew his secret, and the second Gwen says Osborn, and the look he gives Ultimate Gwen basically says he kills you without him actually saying those words. Because he looks right at Ultimate Gwen and then looks down and says Osborn. It's like enough said that those 2 panels where he looks at her and then looks down and says Osborn after she says his name as one of the people who knew his secret. And you got the funny moment of Ultimate Gwen, who's always had it was always like Betty and Veronica in the Ultimate Universe, Ultimate Gwen and Ultimate Mary Jane, for a while there at least. Until Peter and Gwen became just friends, and then she died, and then came back as a clone, and then was not really a clone. But it was always kind of like that, how they did the love triangle for a little while between Gwen and Mary Jane. And then Gwen basically calls out, like, did me and you date? Yeah, kind of, but it didn't work out. She's dead. But he doesn't want to say, oh, yeah, you're dead in my universe. And then she goes, whatever, and she basically goes, oh, you're probably dating Mary Jane. And he goes, is she a supermodel here too? And then the Ultimate Gwen's freak out, because I just imagine, she finds out Mary Jane is a fashion supermodel, and you're dead in his universe.
That's gotta hurt a little bit. Like, if you need something to kill your self-esteem, that'll.
Your rival for the guy.
rapidly.
Your rival for the guy in the main Prime universe, which just means that it's the main Prime version of it. You're dead, and she's the most hottest supermodel in the world. That has got to be the, like John said, the most biggest ego crush ever to anybody in this world. And then you get the Aunt May moment where she basically asks them, "What's your origin?" And it's identical. I got bit by a radioactive spider. Only made up to my genetically altered, or radioactive. But he says, "I got bit by a spider. I got these powers." And then Uncle Ben got shot. And she goes, "You had an Uncle Ben too? Is he alive?" He goes, "No, he was shot. But I still use his words to say," and then they both say together, "With great power, great responsibility." And then it clicks over. It isn't a trick. It isn't a clone. He is Peter. And then that's when when finally she accepts that he's Peter from another world. His power is when he quotes the origin and Uncle Ben dying and power and responsibility. Because basically, like I said, the next arc after this, I think it's when Ultimate Peter returned. That's why it was always kind of weird. But this was basically her finally getting to see what the man her nephew could have been. And probably in her mind what he should have been.
All right, James. So, any other thoughts? And do you give these two issues a thumbs up?
I give them both two thumbs up. Creepiness with Mary Jane side. Because I get what Bendis was doing. Because that was his message that Peter and MJ are soulmates, star-crossed all over no matter what universe it is. And I get it that Ultimate Peter came back like the next arc or so, and they said he was now 18, which meant that Mary Jane and Gwen were now 18. So I guess it's less creepy, but still in context, this is the same Peter Parker that got creeped out by Otto for asking college girls on a date during Superior. And 18-year-old high school girls. He's not hitting on them, like, it's more just because that's what he's used to because of feelings he had from them in his universe, but it's still 20,000 levels of creepy.
All right, James. So, as we move on here to the final issue of Spider-Man number 5, James is going to be tackling this recap again. So, James, why don't you take us through it? How does Spider-Man come into its dramatic and quintessential conclusion?
I wanted to mention too, like I said, I love one of the running jokes whenever after this point where they had a crossover between Ultimate and the 616 and Ultimate Tony was around, how there's always a reference between the 616 person about in our universe you don't drink no more, and the best one comes in Ultimate End when Ultimate Tony finally meets 616 Tony, and Ultimate Tony is basically quoting the Beatles song "I'm the Walker," like, "Hey, it's awesome, you are me and I am you and we are both the same guy, isn't it awesome?" And then Tony looks at him, looks at the bottle, looks at him, looks at the glass of wine. He has literally a glass of wine in one hand and a bottle of beer in the other. And he's like looking at the bottle. He looks at Ultimate Tony. He looks at the martini glass, looks at Ultimate Tony, and then he just says, "We're nothing alike." And that sums it up right there. I just always loved that how it became a running joke after this, how somebody has to call on the 616. Dude, you gave up drinking in our universe. Here you're like, "Hey, it's awesome because I got a brain tumor, so who cares?"
All right, James, but why don't
you read Ultimates? That's basically their excuse why everybody doesn't mind his drinking because, well, he's going to be dead soon. He has a tumor.
All right, James, why don't you take us through what happens in Spider-Man number 5 here?
Basically, Ultimate Mysterio gets tricked into coming in. I mean, 616 Mysterio gets tricked into coming into the Ultimate Universe, but Spider-Man bringing in the robot, but then yanked with the web line to bring 616 Mysterio in. Then we get them, doing normal superhero villain sightings with explosions of buildings and punches and, more references to Ultimate Deadpool killing everybody to Miles, and then, Peter seeing Ock and Norman killing Aunt May, and then Tony seeing, the Ultimates all being killed, and Ultimate Nick Fury seeing the whole world blow up, and he finished all their fears. And then Miles is the one who takes down Mysterio, which again makes Mysterio look like the most total loser of comic books. The whole fact that a 13-year-old kid just takes him out easily. So yeah, the Ultimate, arrests 616 Mysterio and decides to keep him there. Peter basically finally gets. Miles needed this basically, so I can see why Bendis did this because it was something that Miles needed. which was Peter to give him his blessing, to use the web shooter to be that world Spider-Man. And that's basically how the book ends. It's Peter giving Miles the okay to do what he does. And then we return to the regular universe. Peter's all like, well, everybody else in that universe seems to have, parallels in my world. I'm going to type in Miles Morales. And then he gets a name up, and he goes, oh, my God. And that's how it ends.
He's a porn star.
I just think it might be a case of Miles Morales. I mean, there's probably somebody in the real world with that name. Right now as we speak. So I just imagine Peter typed that in. It's not the ultimate counterpart for Miles. It's just some random guy. And Peter's like, oh my God, he plays for the Denver Broncos football team. And it's nowhere close to being Ultimate Miles. It's some white guy who grew up in like Utah.
Miles Morales. Oh my God, he's a senator. He's a United States congressman. All right, James, why don't you give us your thoughts? What do you think of Spider-Man number 5, and what do you think of the series in general?
Number 5 is kind of a letdown because it's just Mysterio comes into the Ultimate Universe, they fight for a few pages, and then Miles takes them out. And then Peter gets his blessing in the end. That's basically all it is. Like, 4 is, like I said, the best issue of this arc, and then 5 is all kind of what else you got. Because, like, all the stuff you wanted to see was already in the first 4 parts. So you get the part 5 that wraps it up. It's like, oh, yeah, we got to deal with Mysterio still. And it gets taken down weight. It's, like, completely anticlimactic. So this one, and of course, we got the cliffhanger that, like me and John have already said, goes nowhere.
Well, actually, it goes into oblivion because of Secret Wars.
It goes into oblivion because Superior Spider-Man happened, and Bendis held off his sequel because of it. And then Bendis held off the sequel again because, again, Slott, decided to do Spider-Verse, and he didn't want 2 dimension hopping Spider-Man storylines going around at the same time. And then it happened yet again with Secret Wars completely retconned the first one out of existence and put Miles in the 616, so it became redundant.
All right. But do you give this story a thumbs up, a thumbs sideways, or a thumbs down, James?
Just want to give a thumbs sideways, but because every other one is a thumbs up, the whole series in general is a thumbs up.
All right. My thoughts on this issue. I thought it was decent enough. I thought it was a decent enough ending. It wasn't spectacular. There was some good fight scenes, some good artwork. My favorite moment was obviously Peter giving his blessing to Miles. That was a heartwarming thing to do, and I think that is something that Peter Parker would do, like as a character.
It's something that was needed. Like, I can see Bendis being like, maybe he didn't want to do the 616 crossover, but it got to the point of, well, we need Miles to get that blessing from Peter. Yeah,
so, I mean, I like that moment, and so that, I think just based on that, the issue gets a thumbs up for me, and it's really good. My personal theory as to who Miles Morales is in the Marvel Universe, I'm going to choose that he is a blogger in his living room who runs a podcast about Spider-Man.
So basically, he's you.
No, he could be you, James.
But I'm not a
blogger. He's some other person who runs a Spider-Man blog. Some other people. There are plenty of them out there, so.
Well, my theory was always at the time that he was going to be revealed to be, like, 616 Miles, and then the plan was obviously changed. Meaning that he was going to be a kid who was also bit by a radioactive spider. But
what if he's now
I see it more as ultimate. Like, I would like to, if they later on retcon that Ultimate 616, Ultimate Miles didn't cross over, and this is just the 616 one that Peter looked up.
What if this Miles, like the one that Peter looked up, is actually an expert on arachnids and spiders? What if he's like one of those guys who studies them? That would be kind of cool.
Like, I think Bendis wanted to be something.
Like, I know that Bendis had ideas for what Miles would be in the 616 universe, but obviously those never came to fruition.
He just looked it up and it's like, oh, hey, he's just some kid from Brooklyn who just didn't get bit by the spider yet or something like that. Peter is shocked by it, so it had to be somebody big. Like, yeah, maybe a villain whose identity was never revealed was going to be Miles in the universe, and it was going to get a twist.
All right, but that conclude our review for this week. We don't really have anything else to say about Spider-Man. We just thought that would be a fun story to sort of tackle on this week where we don't really have literally anything else to talk about. So I guess this really is going to bring this show to a close. At least this is the shout out portion. God damn it!
Want me to go first, since I'm gonna be like the more nicer of the two.
No,
that way people don't want to see a rant. They don't get them to say, because everybody might turn off like midway through your rant, John. So.
Well, we're gonna do shout outs first. So for those of you who are not interested, we're gonna spend the rest of this podcast just addressing. James wants to address DC Rebirth because he asked me if he could do that, and I said sure. And we figured that I would just address Captain America Steve Rogers #1.
If this was any other comics, we would not be doing this. But these were two big, deals that happened this week. That it would feel almost weird if we didn't get our 2 cents out there,
Because James is a big DC fan, and I'm a big Captain America fan.
I'm a big DC fan, but there's a lot of characters in the DC universe I liked, and a lot of them I'm now interested in reading their books post-Rebirth.
And I'm a big Captain America fan, and so I obviously have opinions on the first issue. And so, but before we do that, James, do you have any other shout-outs for the listeners before we sign off?
Ninja Steel got its logo. So shout out to Power Rangers Ninja Steel. And the executive from Lionsgate has already confirmed 7 Power Rangers sequels.
7 Power Rangers sequels? Are you...
He said our goal is 6 or maybe 7.
I didn't even know that.
And people are bitching about it because they're putting all their eggs in the basket for a Power Ranger movie. And it's like, Kevin Feige would... The exact quote by those like people like Collider and other websites are, Kevin Feige wouldn't make an announcement like that. And it's like,
Kevin Feige makes announcements like that every day.
What are you talking about? There might not be sequels to the same series, but in their universe, yeah, they're announcing almost every day a new movie.
I didn't even know that, James. Wow. Okay, my shout out this week, Marvel, Stanley, Steve Ditko, Brian Michael Bendis, Sarah Pacelli. Thank you for the comics review this week. Thank you for Spider-Man. What are my other shout outs this week? If you want to sponsor us, we'd love it. What else do I have to shout out to this week? Shout out to leather chairs. I'm just sort of looking around the room and like just seeing what I can shout out to. Shout out to patio cushions. Shout out to filing cabinets. I'm just stalling for time because I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about this.
Actually, you want me just to go first?
Yes. Yes. Go on. Go for anyone who doesn't care about this can turn off now. But yeah, we will see you next week. Thank you for tuning in. But
this week I picked up comics like I normally do, my weekly poll. Over there, you got the rest of my weekly poll over there, including Captain America #1. And I'm just going to say that right now because I know right now I'm thinking John dial a little bit inside. But the other big one I picked up, like I said, was DC Rebirth. And like I said, this was the best comic. Not only it was the best comic of this week. I think John can attest to that with the ending of Captain America #1. Out of these two, this one probably won, and John didn't even read this one.
I didn't read that one, but I'm sure it did.
And like I said, as somebody who, like I said, I've never been like, I'm not a DC fan. It's like I read every DC title. I know like every history about every character in the DC universe. But I am a Batman fan. I like Superman. I like Arrow. I like Flash. Titans. I like a lot of elements in the DC universe. So I picked this up because like a lot of people, I try to get into. I saw the New 52 as a great jumping on point for DC. And besides for Snyder's Batman run, there was nothing that caught my interest. This has made me got interested in so many DC books. It's like, thank God I got a new job. Because that way I can now pay for more comics. Not saying I steal them or anything like that. I'm just saying that I can now buy more than I used to buy. And it's a really great story. Basically, some of page and stuff like that. Shit happened. DC's universe, every time it changed, was the result of a certain little graphic novel that became a certain little movie that introduced Scott Snyder to the DC universe. You might know it. No, it's not Infinite Crisis, John.
I still love that.
The book I'm, of course, talking about is Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibson. One of the greatest comic books of all time. Which became a kind of okay. Scott Snyder's history with DC movies. A great comic book became an okay, but sort of bad movie. Basically, the characters from that universe, namely Dr. Manhattan, decided to take 10 years from the DC continuity, and the reason why everything all got condensed into 5 years, and certain characters weren't there, and certain teams were not there, and why certain timelines were not there, and why certain, relationships were not there, and sidekicks were not there, and Batman's whole history was in the 5 years, but he has an 8-year-old son. How does that make any sense? It was all Dr. Manhattan and the Watchmen doing it because they're going to invade the DC universe to save it like they saved their universe. And how did they save their universe? By having a fucking giant squid blow up all in New York City, killing people in a bloody, gory mess. I'm not bullcrapping you. Go look it up if you've never ever read of Watchmen. Yeah, so you got that, and I love how they did it, because as a guy who got into DC for the animated, DC universe, Wally West was my Flash, and he's somebody who was missing for all the New 52, and not only did they bring him back, but they did it in a great way where he reveals this was the same Earth that DC always was. It just, the Watchmen universe fucked it up. Basically, in a very meta thing, Watchmen changed the DC universe. Watchmen's dark, grim, gritty, realistic touch changed the DC universe, and I thought that was a brilliant thing, to be very meta and breaking the fourth wall there. It's not really breaking the fourth wall because it's in continuity that those characters changed it, but it's very meta in the metaphor, you know what I mean? And it's handled really well. All the characters who appear in this book are handled really well, from Superman to Aquaman to The Flash, Wally West, the Legion, Justice League, Justice Society, Batman, the Jokers, we gotta say, everybody is handled really good. The art is amazing. And like I said, when you get to that ending twist, and Wally says, I don't know who these guys are or who screwed us up. If you didn't read the spoilers, it was impossible. Everybody got spoiled it. But if you didn't read the spoilers, you got a good twist. As Batman's in the Batcave and he notices something on his wall and he picks it up. And then you hear Wally's narration says, we're being watched. And then the iconic bloody smiley face badge, Batman's holding it. And then you got the epilogue, which is, as you see, modern day artwork slowly, almost like the ending of 97 Titanic. You start seeing panel by panel as this modern day art style by Gary Frank is changed into Dave Gibson's artwork from Watchmen. And then the dialogue is taking all the final pages of Watchmen, and it's interpreted now about the DC universe where, did we do the right thing? Well, nothing ends, Adrian. Nothing ever ends. And then it says, with the bloody countdown to Doomsday clock that was in Watchmen, it's counting down to the DC universe, and it sets up, oh my god, we're going to get a Watchmen DC crossover. This is awesome.
So, James, you loved it, huh?
This was the best comic all week. If you haven't read DC Rebirth, buy it. It's an 80-page comic, and you didn't get it for $5. You didn't get it for $6. You didn't get it for $4. You got it for $3. Pick it up if you're somebody who's remotely interested in the DC universe, which does not include John, so I'm not selling it to John, but I mean anybody else, pick it up.
Oh, God.
I would sell it to John if Supergirl is in this thing, but she's not. I think she's only in like 1 or 2 panels and the back cover.
So Captain America Steve Rogers #1 came out this week. Boy, it sure did.
Hey, John, before you start your rant, I gotta say, I enjoyed Green Captain. It was my second favorite book I read this week. And if you're not down with that, I got 2 words for you. Hail Hydra.
I am not one of those guys who's freaking out about this.
Who are already writing petitions about it. Like, that's going to fucking work because Marvel doesn't listen to petitions, a.k.a. One More Day.
Like, that's going to fucking work because Marvel doesn't listen to anything.
This is this decade's One More Day because Marvel is already becoming assholes about this to fans.
There's a lot of problems I have with this, and it's actually a lot of them don't even have to do with the story.
I'm not that big of a Captain America fan. Like, I like certain runs. Like, I love the movies, and there's certain runs, like the Bird Breaker stuff I love. And, there's iconic stuff about Captain America that I like to read. I'm always like reading when he's in team-up books, like the Avengers and stuff like that. I'm not that big of a Cap fan, so me picking up his title depends on if the story's good. It's already not going to be added to my poll. So I'm saying that right now after that ending. And it's not in the whole fan rage, I'm done. It's more of I don't like this where this is going.
And, like, I'll be honest with you, when I first read the panel, like, when I first read the page, and I read the issue, and James had actually told me how it ended, like, a day before it even came out. I
didn't even know that was true. All I said is, hey, John, there's rumors on the internet he's going to be Hydra. I thought it was just a rumor. Like, a lot of things are just rumors.
Yeah, he and I were on Skype for like a half an hour saying, oh, man, that's complete bullshit. There's no way Marvel would ever do that. And then it leaked onto the internet and Twitter blew up. And, like, something I just want to say about this right now is this is just how Marvel operates now. This is how Marvel has operated for years. They hook you, they basically pull the ending or the cliffhanger or the hook that they think will get you emotionally pissed or emotional. You will feel something, and they want to piss you off.
If I can interrupt you for a second, John, it's like famous or infamous, depending on what point of view you're on, wrestling personality, Eric Bischoff. He named his own book this, and that's the way how he used to write wrestling storylines when he ran the old WCW. He called it 3 C's. Controversy creates cash, and that's how Marvel's been operating the last decade.
And I should roll that back because, I mean, I can't actually speak for Marvel. I can't, and I don't want to. They're not douchebags. They're business people. They're gonna focus on sales. The argument. I hear a lot of people make arguments saying that after a certain point, Marvel stopped caring about story integrity and they only started caring about sales. To be honest with you, to insist that Marvel ever prioritized story integrity over sales, I don't believe that ever.
Secret Wars, the first major crossover in the Marvel universe, was to sell action figures.
Like, I don't believe that Marvel ever prioritized story integrity over sales, and there's a reason for that. Because Marvel is a for-profit business. It's what businesses do. I'm not insulting Marvel. It's just like I'm pointing out this is how the world works, people.
Martin Goodman, the original owner of Marvel in the 60s, didn't want Spider-Man to be a book at all until the sales of ASM-15 were through the roof. They've always been that way. It's money, money, money. It's a business. Marvel is no different than any other comic book company. Is no different than any other company, period. I work for McDonald's. They want money. Show me the money. No matter where you work, Amazon, restaurants, stores, online, movies, video games, you name it.
And so,
if you're not making money, you're not making anything.
And so, like, that's just how Marvel operates. And they do things to get you interested and to get you in the store and buying comic books. Especially in this current age of the industry when comic books are slowly, but ever but surely, going down the shithole. I'm going to be honest with you. Comic book sales suffer every year. And we've seen that. Sales figures.
It's a slow death, but give it 100 years, it's going to be dead.
if 100 years, comic books are going to be treated probably like the Holy Bible is now. But here's the thing. I don't really feel a need to get overly upset about this because I know this is how Marvel works. I don't appreciate fans go on the internet and make Twitter hashtags about how Captain America is now anti-Semitic and a Nazi, because it's not possible. Marvel couldn't do that if they wanted to. They literally
Hydra are neo-Nazis.
And Hydra in the comics, they're not even a Nazi organization. So
They're like, that's why I call them neo-Nazis. They're like the Nazi, but they're not Nazis.
And it's just and I know I know someone's going to watch this podcast and say, "Oh, this Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow is anti-Semitic and hates Jewish people." No, that's not what we're saying.
I do a Spider-Man podcast with the most awesome Jewish guy you'll ever meet. My favorite rock band is Kiss, who one of the big players of that band, Gene Simmons, his mother was a Holocaust survivor. So I can guarantee you right now, I'm not anti-Semitic at all.
What I'm saying here is that a lot of the outrage that has been brought at this is completely unjustified, and it shows a fundamental lack of understanding of how the comic book industry operates from a lot of people who claim that they are longtime fans of it. And so I just wanted to get that off my chest. It's just like a lot of the outrage at this is really just noise. Which
this is catch one more day.
Moving on, like talking about the actual story itself. All right, I'll admit that I was not a fan of the last panel. I'm not really pleased with where this story is going. But here's the thing: we don't know where the story is going.
Well, according to them, this is not just a story. This ain't just going to be a one and done storyline. This is going to be the carrier from now on. They
say it's a status quo, and we could have a whole debate on here about whether or not Marvel employees are talking down to their fans. We could do a whole podcast on it. And to be honest,
we Spider-Man fans have 1,000 examples just in the last 8 years of one more day of that.
I mean, I don't like to attack Marvel employees because, in a lot of ways, they have thankless jobs because, they get shit for everything. They can't do anything right in a lot of people's eyes. And so I don't.
Not just any comic company. There's people that like, doesn't matter how good of Valiant, Image, Dark Horse, whatever indie, comic company there is, there's people that will not buy them because it's an indie, it's not Marvel and DC, it doesn't count. There's people that hate DC, that no matter what DC does, it's shit. There's people that hate Marvel, no matter what Marvel does, it's shit.
But it's like, I don't want to disparage these people who do have tough jobs. Obviously not, they're not as tough jobs as, serving or being a firefighter or a policeman or stuff like that. But it's like, you get a lot of criticism leveled at you, especially in the current age of social media and 24-hour online interactions. But at the same time, I don't really care for the talking down of, towards the fans by the creators. I don't care for that. It's something I don't like. And I know that's probably going to turn a lot of Marvel creators off of our show. If any of them watch this, I'm sure they're going to view us negatively, but I don't feel like I don't like feeling like I'm being disrespected and talked down to, especially, when I'm not even being rude to them. I've only ever had that happen to me once, and to be completely honest, I wasn't even talking to a Marvel executive. I just posted something on a message board, and a certain Marvel creator decided to talk down to me and basically insult me for expressing an opinion on something that I didn't like.
And don't forget the time that you guys even covered it on this You and Thomas on this very show covered it weeks before I even joined your show. You guys didn't even know it was me. I mentioned in a random Spider-Man forum how I dropped the title during Superior, and Dan Slott made a whole thread about me, about how my opinion didn't count because I dropped the title, so I can't judge what's going on with Superior because I dropped the title.
And I'm not going to say who the Marvel creator was. I'm not even going to say where.
No, I'm just saying it because it's out there, you know.
Yeah, I'm not going to say who mine was. I don't want to get into a fight with anybody. I don't think he would get into a fight with me, to be honest with you. But he doesn't seem like that kind of person. But yeah, it's just I don't like when creators talk down to fans like this. You know, some fans, I'm going to admit, have it coming, but you know, there's a sense of professionalism that I think creators should just like.
It's one thing if you're giving death threats to a creator, like just throwing random out there, not picking on Dan Slott. If you're someone in the message boards who's giving him and his family death threats, then yeah, you're being the douchebag. If it's somebody saying, hey, I don't like this book, and they have constructive criticism, which is fair, and they have valid arguments to back those opinions up, they're not a fanboy, they're not a hater, they're not any of that. They're just somebody who didn't like your book.
And it's like, and Nick Spencer has already received death threats over this, which anyone who sent him death threats, here's the middle finger, I'm going to promptly tell you to go to hell. Just I don't like it when creators talk down to us. Sometimes they may be justified from a moral standpoint, but just be a professional. Don't do it, please.
When they try to even play it off as, oh, we're just teasing. You got to lighten up, because it's like it got annoying when you're on. I'm not going to name names, but there was a certain Spider-Man website who me and John used to be regular people that would contribute to by write comments or message or posts or going to their website and reading it. And there was a Marvel editor, not naming names again, who would be on there basically taking pot shots at them and their site, on their site, and play off as, ha ha ha, you guys don't have a sense of humor.
And like moving on to the actual like Cap story, I have a theory about where this is going, and it's a theory that I'll explain right now. We all know that in Captain America Sam Wilson #7, which is also written by Nick Spencer, Steve Rogers was restored to his youth by Kobik, which was the little girl cosmic cube thing that, that whole Avengers standoff event, which was all heralded by Nick Spencer. That was his story. She was the center focus of all of that. And she gave Steve Rogers back because of his honor, his values, and because of his resilience. When, even though it looked like Crossbones was about to kill him, he still was not about to give up. And so she restored his youth from that. But here's something we also have to remember about this, and this is where my theory comes in. That little girl was emotionally disturbed and mentally disturbed on several very, very deep levels. And the theory is that when she gave him back his youth, she also, you could take this two ways. You could say she did it by accident or she did it on purpose to screw with everybody. She gave him back his youth and then turned him into, instead of being a symbol for America, turned him into a symbol against America as a way to screw with everybody. It's a storyline that I could deal with. I don't like it as an ongoing status quo. If it's a story, if it's maybe a 6-part story, fine. If you're going to make this into a status quo, just no. I'm not on board with this.
I mean, I got my own theory about what it is, and I'll say this. A random woman who happens to have Hydra, affiliation, goes up to Steve's mom, happens to be a friend of Steve's mom, out of nowhere, who just happens to be a member of Hydra, who just happens to save her and Steve from the abusive father, out of complete nowhere, we never got referenced to before. I'm still saying I think it's time travel. I think this person works for Hydra, and they sent them back in time to give Steve's mom the pamphlet to get Steve to become a SHIELD, to become a Hydra agent. And it's going to be like the whole next year is going to be, because it will still be a status quo if it's a year over like 2 or 3 Captain America titles, where it's going to be them finding out what happened, and it's basically superior Captain America, and then they're going to have to go to the past and fix it and stop this woman from doing that.
And I don't really care for the gimmickness, because the thing is, we've had this ongoing status quo of old man Steve Rogers for 2 years now. Well, we had it for what, 2 years, and now
I give Marvel credit for one thing. They do this like every comic book company. Like DC kind of tries to claim now with Rebirth, and as a fan I am, they kind of claim that, oh, we're not, being slaves to our TV shows and movies. Yet Supergirl looks exactly like its TV show. Flash looks almost identical to the TV show. Green Arrow TV show because of fan backlash. Suicide Squad, the lineups from the movie. You look at the Joker, he's Jared Leto. I mean, that's going on right now. You can't say that you're not, writing it for to be acceptable with your movies and your TV shows and your other media. And Cap came back because Civil War happened. It's similar to Peter coming back because Amazing Spider-Man 2 happened. The problem is they tried to do something different to grab headlines because Captain America Civil War was still on field, and they want to get more money for that too. It's money creating them for Marvel reading books and movies. And it's the same week as DC Rebirth. It was a cash grab. Plain and simple. They can say it's a status quo change, and it's not. It's a cash grab.
And it's like there's so many interesting things that you can do with Steve Rogers, true Steve Rogers, and Sam Wilson operating as 2 Captain Americas. You don't need to change a character dynamic. You don't need that. And so, especially with the same writer writing both books, you don't have to jump through hoops for this.
It's weird because most people like Sam. Nobody hates Sam, and they liked him as Captain America. They like him better as Falcon because that's more nostalgic and how they want to hear. But nobody outright hates that he was Captain America.
Sam Wilson's book is damn good right now.
It's still a highest-selling Marvel book that people enjoy. So it's not like they're character assassinating Steve to try to get people to buy Falcon's book. This is just something that they're doing because it's like wanting to piss off people and get us money from customers. People are going to have to buy now issue 2 to see, oh my God, what's going on with Captain Hydra.
And I mean, maybe I'm acting, I guess. I mean, it's entirely possible that I am.
I'm jokingly calling it now like I call him. So there's 2 titles I got him calling this jokingly. Captain Hydra, and the other one is the superior Captain America.
It's just like I don't care for the I don't care for the intentional the intentional riot starting, I guess. I don't care for that.
Because it does sound great. What if Captain America was a traitor for Hydra? That's a good story. Similar to Superior Spider-Man. That could be a great story. Superior Iron Man is the same thing. Tony goes off the rails. More mostly with Turkey probably. But he goes off the rails and he goes from being the hero scientist to being the mad scientist. Peter Parker, almost similar thing. What if Spider-Man, started using the power irresponsibly? And it's just too with Cap now. It's like, what if he's the greatest traitor of all time to Hydra? It's just those ideas are good on paper, and if written well, they could be written well. But the way it looks, Marvel just wants this to be a status quo for a year or 2, and to piss people off, and piss them off to the point that they have to read the next issue to see how they're going to get pissed off even more.
That's part of the reason why I'm just like. It's honestly part of the reason why I'm just like kind of annoyed. Like I'm not even like angry at the story. I'm just annoyed. It's just like there's no point to this. There's no point. You could tell so many other
stories. This rumor was spreading like a few days before it happened. We're calling bullshit because it's like a retcon that doesn't even fit.
And it's like you don't even need this. You could tell so many other interesting stories
The one reason why I think it's time travel or some other bullshit is because remember back in like what was it, issue 1 or 2 of the current, okay, you can say it's Bendis, so he's like giving it about continuity, but this is Nick Spencer writing stuff months later, so it's not like Bendis not caring about continuity is the problem here. He had it where when he's about to kiss that girl, he whispers "Hail Hydra" at her to see her reaction, to symbolize, at least in the Avengers and people who have associated with S.H.I.E.L.D., they do that to make sure no one's secretly a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. I mean, a Hydra agent. Nobody once ever said that, and Steve never said, "Hail Hydra." Are you kidding me?
And it's just, I don't care for this. It's just, I'm just annoyed. I guess I'm annoyed at the whole situation. I'm annoyed at the whole, like, James, you know, like how I've been really excited about this book for weeks now.
John literally went from being months after it came down, literally counting the days, being like, I can't wait for May, Captain America, Steve Rogers, #1, oh yeah. No matter what comic I was happy about, DC Reaper, Mighty from Power Rangers, you know, us shooting on Amazing because it's been full of crap lately. You know, a new issue of Iron Man, a new issue of this, a movie, whatever. He would always end it with, yeah, but in May, here comes Captain America #1. I can't wait. And now John is like, fuck my life.
It's just, this is what happens when comics.
I said it before, and I'll say it again. This is Cap's one more day.
I'm just annoyed. Like,
This is Cap's Iron Man Civil War, where you care to assess somebody for controversy.
It's like this. I'm just annoyed. That's what I'm going to end this on. I'm just going to end this right now.
Yeah.
I'm annoyed.
And I'm going to end it with this. It's the same thing they did with most of the X-Men. It's the same thing they did with Spider-Man with One More Day and then Superior. It's the same thing they did with Iron Man with Civil War and Superior Iron Man. It's character assassination, so that way controversy can create cash.
And I'm just annoyed. All right, that's the end of our show. We like through that very painful time where I was basically crying about a comic book. But yes, thank you all for tuning in. We will see you all next week. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, number 13 comes out, so check back for a review of that. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming by, and yeah, see you all later.